If you ever go camping deep in the mountains and you hear your own voice calling your name from the trees, don't answer it. I didn't know that rule until last year. I'm still alive, but I don't sleep right anymore. There were 3 of us on that trip. Me, my best friend Caleb, and his girlfriend, Riley. We went at a no-service weekend in the mountains. No phones, no traffic, just trees, cold air, and a sky full of stars. We hit the last little town before the range just before dark. It was one gas station, a diner, and a few houses. While we filled the tank, an older man in a faded game warden hat watched us from the door. Caleb told him we were going up an old fire road to camp higher than the marked sites. The man's face changed in a slow, tired way, like he'd heard that plan before. That road washes out, he said. Old logging cabins up there, nothing worth staying for. He hesitated, then added, if fog comes in, or you hear voices in the trees that don't belong there, you head down. Don't go looking, don't answer, just go down the mountain. We laughed it off. We were young, we had new gear, and warnings like that sound like stories, not instructions. But as we drove away, I caught him in the side mirror still staring after us. The fire road turned bad fast. Potholes, loose rock, branches scraping the sides of the SUV. No more houses, no more power lines, just miles of pine and spruce. When the road finally became a pile of boulders, we parked and hiked the last mile with our packs. The air thinned and cooled. The forest was so thick in places you could barely see the sky. We found the cabin in a small clearing. It was made of dark logs, half sunk and leaning. The roof drooped in the middle. One window was boarded from the inside. The others were just black, dirty glass that didn't reflect anything. None of us liked it, but nobody wanted to say that out loud. We agreed we wouldn't sleep inside, just in case, and we set up our tents about 50 yards away where the ground was level. By the time the fire was going, the cabin was a black square at the edge of the trees. The windows looked like eyes. The woods around us were so quiet that our own voices sounded wrong. Then the first weird thing happened that night. The fire was down to faint coals and the forest was dark enough that my tent walls looked solid. Then I heard footsteps. They moved slowly around the tents, not light animal steps. Heavy, careful, human steps on dry leaves. They stopped next to my head. Something dragged along the fabric of my tent. Nails or fingertips tracing a line from the top corner to the bottom. The canvas shivered with each bump. I whispered Caleb's name once, then louder. From his tent, I could hear him snoring. Riley shifted and mumbled in her sleep. Whoever was outside wasn't them. The steps moved away, toward the cabin. After that, nothing. No wind, no insects, just a thick, pressing quiet. In the morning, I checked the ground. The layer of leaves and dirt around the tents were untouched, except for our own tracks. No boot prints, no animal prints, nothing around the cabin either. I told myself I dreamed it. It was easier than the other choice. The second day felt normal for a while. We hiked up to a rocky ridge and stared out at miles of trees and layers of blue hills. We joked about quitting our jobs and living out there. It almost felt like the trip we'd planned. Back at camp that evening, the shadows came quicker. The clouds were heavier, and the air had that sharp, empty taste that comes before snow. Caleb took 2 empty bottles and said he was going to fill them at the creek we'd pass lower down the slope. We could hear the water if we went quiet, a soft rushing sound. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Riley started watching the dark. I checked my watch again, tried to joke that he'd fallen in. Neither of us had laughed. I told her to stay at camp and went to look. Following Caleb's trail was easy at first. His boot prints were clear in the soft ground. They went straight to the edge of the creek, then turned left, took 3 steps along the bank, and stopped. The ground ahead was smooth, just wet leaves and rocks, no sign of a slip, no broken branches, no drag marks. His prints just ended like someone had erased the rest of them. The creek noise suddenly felt too loud. That's when I heard him. "Hey!" Caleb's voice called from the trees uphill, not from the creek, from deeper in the forest, farther away from camp. "Over here!" It sounded exactly like him, but something about the timing was off. The voice came in too quick, like an audio clip playing the moment I finished my thought. I called back, asking where he was. The answer came from a different direction this time, off to my right. "Come this way," the voice said. Same tone, same little laugh at the end. But it wasn't moving through the woods the way a real person would. It just popped up where it wanted to be. The hair on my arms rose. The gas station man's words flashed in my head. "If you hear voices in the trees that don't belong there, go down." I turned back towards camp instead. Something moved through the brush behind me as I walked. Whatever it was stayed just out of sight, matching my pace. Once, a branch snapped close enough that I flinched. I didn't look back. I walked faster until the trees opened into the clearing and I saw our tents again. Riley was by the fire, eyes wide, whistle in her hand. She said she had heard someone calling my name from 2 different spots at once. Before we can share how bad that felt, the cabin side brush rustled and Caleb stepped out. He looked fine, clothes dry, bottles full. He said the creek had been right there and that he'd only been gone for a few minutes. When we told him it had been almost 40, he frowned like we were mixing up numbers. When I took a bottle from him, his fingers were ice cold. The air wasn't even that cold yet. We didn't push it. None of us wanted to fight that high up with night coming on. The second night is when we saw it. The wind had picked up and the trees creaked and swayed. Our fire was low. We were all in our tents pretending to sleep when the first voice came. It was Riley's outside my tent. "Hey," it whispered. "Come look at this." The sound was wrong right away. Riley has a slow, soft way of talking. This was too flat, no breath, like a recording played through a speaker buried in leaves. I stayed still. A few seconds later, my own voice answered from somewhere near the cabin. "Yeah, come here. You have to see this." Hearing yourself talk when you know your mouth is closed does something strange to your brain. For a second, I had that urge to obey, just because it sounded like me. Then the urge snapped and all that was left was fear. The voices kept circling. Sometimes they sounded like Caleb, sometimes like Riley. Twice I heard my mom call my name in the exact tone she used when I was a kid in trouble. Then something heavy stepped into the circle of dead coals and faint light. I saw it through a thin line in the tent zipper. It was tall, taller than any person I've ever met. Its arms hung low, almost to its knees. The body was wrong too, narrow in some places, too wide in others, like someone had tried to draw a human shape from memory and missed the proportions. Its skin looked gray in the low light, stretched tight. Its head was smooth and bald with a long dent where a nose would have been. The eyes were just dark holes. When it turned towards my tent, I felt it even through the fabric. It took a step, then another, moving in a slow circle around the camp. As it walked, it whispered in Caleb's voice, then mine, then Riley's, like it was trying on each one. The smell that came with it was damp and old, like wet wood from a basement that never dries. It paced for a long time, then, without a sound, it slipped toward the trees and it was gone. We stayed in our tents, frozen until the sky started to lighten. By morning, the first snow had started to fall. Thin, hard flakes that stung when they hit skin. The clouds hung low and gray between the peaks, cutting off any view of the valley. We all knew we had to leave. No one argued. We packed in a rush, hands shaking, ears tuned to every sound in the trees. We left some gear behind without meaning to. I don't remember rolling up my sleeping bag, I just remember the weight on my back and the feeling of being watched. The forest looked different in the snow. Paths blurred, landmarks disappeared. The trail we used on the way up was harder to see. As we started down, the voices came back. First, they were far away. Caleb calling my name from somewhere upslope, even though Caleb was right next to me. Then Riley's laugh, deeper in the woods to our left, even as she grabbed my arm. The thing was trying to pull us off trail. We linked hands so we couldn't split without meaning to. Caleb'd walk in front with a compass. I watched the trees behind us. Every few minutes I'd catch a glimpse of movement between the trunks, a tall shape, long arms, the gray of its skin almost the same color as the snow and bark. When I blinked, it would be gone. At one point, the fog rolled in so thick we could barely see each other. That's when it came close. Feet pounded behind us on the trail. Heavy, fast steps. Snow sprayed up in little bursts. We sprinted. Branches whipped our faces. Packs slammed into our backs. The thing chased after us. Its footsteps loud and quick, not slipping once on rock or ice. It shouted as it chased us, but not in any language, just sounds. Bits of our own voices stitched together into nonsense. Little pieces of our words from the last 2 days, cut and pasted. Hearing it felt like being peeled. "Don't look back," Caleb yelled. That was one of the few real sentences any of us had said. Of course I looked back. For a second I saw it clear. It was leaning forward as it ran, arms long and swinging. Its mouth was wide open now, stretching down farther than a human mouth should, like the bottom half of its face was trying to fall off. Inside was nothing but darkness, no tongue, no teeth, just a black space that seemed deeper than its body. The eyes weren't really eyes either, they were just pitch black holes. After seeing that, I turned forward again and ran even harder. The trail started to slope more steeply. Somewhere ahead I heard water and realized we were near the official campground in the main road. For the first time I believed we might actually get away. The thing must have heard it too, the traffic, faint but real. The low hum of a world bigger than these trees because the sound of its footsteps began to fade. The voices it was making started to thin out. The last one I heard was my own, right by my ear, almost gentle. "Come back, you forgot something." We didn't stop until we hit the gravel lot by the lower trailhead and saw other cars. Other people, a family unloading coolers, a ranger truck. Only then did we finally turn around. The fog hung between the trunks like a wall. Nothing stood there. No tall figure, no eyes. just a dark line of trees and a soft fall of snow. We told the ranger a simple version. We heard something big in the woods and got scared. We didn't talk about our own voices coming from the trees or the tall gray creature or anything about the creepy cabin. Search and rescue went up later in the day when the snow eased. They found our upper campsite and the old log cabin. It looked smaller in the daylight, almost normal, but none of them liked going inside. They didn't find any tracks aside from ours. The snow had covered everything. They offered to guide us back up the next morning to collect the rest of our gear. We said no. All three of us made it home. On paper, everybody lived, and that should be the end of it. Since this happened, we haven't gone on any more trips. Not like this one, at least. But now we know. If you ever go camping deep in the mountains and you hear your own voice calling your name from the trees, don't answer it. Just turn around and go down.